Hawks. Do you know whose G League team that is?
College Park.
Focus on the Hawks.
Hawks. Oh. That is obviously the Brooklyn Nets.
You know how Hawks get caught in nets? That's where they got to.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm guessing Atlanta.
The Atlanta Hawks would be what you're. And for people still hitting me up about Tool tickets, that show is now not far off. The 20th of this month. So I'll have Tool tickets for you next week as well, around 5:20. The band supporting Tool in Cleveland is called The Acid Helps. They're taking Brass Against out with them overseas, but over here, we're going to get The Acid Helps. So that'll be next week on the show. Sunday morning, remember, you can get 2 hours of the best stuff from this week, all condensed. The Week in Cox is 8 to 10 Sunday mornings. It is its own podcast as well. So if you're not up early on a Sunday, you can listen to it at your leisure on the iHeartRadio app. I got a text from, I don't know from who. Alan, you guys were talking about the Ariel Castro thing. My boyfriend was driving toward Cleveland, got pulled over for speeding, and as the cop was about to write him a ticket, he got a call on his radio about the girls in Ariel Castro's house and just left right away. Boy, that's good timing right there. You'd certainly hate, I hope that her boyfriend sent Ariel Castro a card in prison for the hot cup of coffee that he was there before he took himself out. Hey, man, listen, you're awful, but for my purposes, I was getting pulled over. I was going to get a pretty hefty ticket for speeding. And then the call came over the radio that they pulled those girls out. So from me to you, again, I don't know. I don't know what that letter would even look like. Didn't you have a dog with, I was reading that they were giving dogs mega esophagus.
They're giving it to them?
No, I was reading that they were giving dogs Viagra to treat canine eating disorders.
Oh.
And the article mentioned that.
Make his throat stiffer so food would go down and get it. Yeah.
I guess. This is out of Washington State University is where they're doing this. And Viagra, they're finding as a remedy for dogs with a rare disorder called mega esophagus. Know what your dog had?
That's what he had. It was brutal, man. I remember. For anybody that's wondering, it was basically a disease that made it so that he couldn't eat solid foods because they get caught in his throat and then he'd throw them back up. Mm-hmm. And so we had to either blend his food or we'd make these like jelly versions of it. And that's basically how we had to feed him all those years. But he would always want to get into something. And mostly it happened when like I wasn't around and the kids weren't paying attention. And I remember one time he ate an entire loaf of bread. Mm-hmm. And then he puked it up. And it looked like the same loaf pretty much.
Sure.
But just wet and all puffy and it covered in bile. Oh, it was so nasty. And he had a lot of situations like that where he would just puke all over everything. So not a fun disease to deal with if you have a dog with that. But he was such a good dog, you didn't even care.
Listen, when I drop a wet puffy loaf, you'll know it. Mm-hmm. If you live at Casa Cox. Even, hell, if you're up the street, you'll know it. Yeah, no, the way they describe this, the way you've described it is just anecdotally is awful, but the way that they medically describe it, they say a lot of animals will regurgitate their food or aspirate it into their lungs, which causes aspiration pneumonia, which could kill a lot of these dogs because their esophagus can't move food to the stomach. Anyway, they're giving dogs Viagra for this, and it's working out. They're also finding that Viagra reduces the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. Don't know about that, but they said it reduces it by about 70%. So you figure Pfizer, I think that's who makes Viagra. They've probably hit peak Viagra as far as like being a boner pill. You know, they've ended up with a lot of competition along the way. They kind of held that space on their own for a while until it blew up. And so you're trying to keep those, you're kind of trying to keep it out there and find new things for it to do. And so I guess that's where they're like, hey, maybe this will help dogs. And they're finding that it has.
It's a weird thing to find out. But I mean, wasn't Viagra...
It was heart medication.
It's heart medication, right, yeah.
Yep. That they discovered it was giving people boners. And they were like, hey, the heart medication market is pretty good, but I'm thinking the boner pill market might be even better.
And it was.
And it was. That's right. Speaking of speeding, that girl said that her boyfriend got stopped for speeding, and the cop got the call about Ariel Castro right at that time. Did you see the guy who blamed Putin on why he was speeding?
No.
This guy gets pulled over for speeding and tells the cop that he's so worried about Putin, he's trying to get home. I just want to get back to my house and find out what's going on. This is in Florida, for anybody wondering.
Okay, it's in sport mode. I was trying to get it. I just got this thing, okay, sir? Sir,
I just got this car. It was in sport mode, so he's off to a good start.
Was that a Tesla?
Don't know what it is.
I mean, my car doesn't have sport mode. That's what I'm saying. So it must be a nice car.
If it's saw you run the stop sign.
I'm sorry.
Make a left turn.
I'm sorry, sir.
And then hop on the gas. I was sitting right at the intersection.
I'm so sorry, sir.
So your excuses?
I saw a car coming, and
You didn't, because I was sitting right there.
Well, I saw the car coming, and I wanted to get out before them.
And then you dropped on the gas and took off.
I'm so sorry, sir.
I need to see your insurance card, please.
Oh.
This guy's got a pretty rad ponytail, though.
Oh, yeah? Well,
he's driving a car with sport mode.
He's not. His hair is also in sport mode.
He's got business in the front.
Mm-hmm. You got the registration?
Yeah, there was no reason for that at all. I would put people's lives into safety and
I
everything.
just found out, I'm trying to tell you the truth, guy. I just found out that Putin is just said he's going to launch nuclear thermal war against the world.
Nuclear thermal war.
That sounds real bad. I mean, nuclear war is one thing, but it's nuclear and...
Nuclear, for one thing.
Nuclear.
He said nuclear.
Nuclear.
He's quoting George W. Bush. Nuclear thermal war.
Nuclear thermal war. So it's not only nuclear war, it is thermal too. So, you got to get that waffle knit clothing on to even participate in the war.
Which would make it, you might have noticed, the exact opposite of a Cold War.
Cold War.
Said he's going to launch nuclear thermal war against the world. I was trying to get back to my house to find out what's going on. I'm freaking out here, guy.
I have sport mode, but no radio in my car, unfortunately.
Okay? I got people in the Ukraine. They just sent me the insurance.
I've got people in the Ukraine, is what he said. All right. Well, anyway, I like that. Putin made me do it. Excuse. Try it. Listen, if you get pulled over, try this. But it's thermonuclear war. Sorry, he's got me saying it now. Thermonuclear war. Not nuclear thermal war. And all these people commenting, they're like, this is so sad. Americans genuinely think that World War III is going to start because of all the media fear-mongering all day long.
Nope, we really don't care. It's not going to be.
I mean, I care, but you can't freak out about it nonstop. However, it's just that people don't know what's happening. And for most people, nothing like this has happened in their lifetime. So people are getting a little jittery.
If it makes you feel any better about our standing in going to war, if they want to think we're going to war, we don't even want sanctions. We don't even want our gas prices to go up. We don't even want the price of oil to go up. We don't even want to deal with that inconvenience. You think we're going to go over to war?
Well,
no.
But listen, something costing more. Inflation is one of those rare economic things that affects everyone. There are a lot of things that can vacillate in the economy, but they don't really hit people who are of a certain income. They'll hit poorer people harder. Inflation is something that hits across the board. So that's what makes people nervous. People, obviously, I was talking about it before. I never know what gas costs because it's a cost that I can absorb. I'm fortunate in that way. Some people listen, when I was dirt poor, I had a nickel and dime gas, right? I get it. But when people are talking about how will this country be affected economically, have you seen any of the articles about how much our economy is, or portions of our economy are very interconnected with Russian finances? Like what was I reading this morning?
Republicans.
The what? No. I was reading a thing this morning that said that the Kentucky State Teachers Pension Fund was the second largest investor in this Russian bank. So this Russian bank was holding the fund for the Kentucky State Teachers Pension. And because of sanctions and things, you wouldn't think that it would affect this way. But the value of that fund went from $113 million to $775,000. So obviously I don't understand the ins and outs of all those economics, but the long and the short of it is you have Kentucky teachers now who are freaking the F out because of what's going on now between Russia and Ukraine, because of their pension funds. So like all these things that you would never really think, and I think that's probably part of Putin's calculus, is he thinks, they're not going to do anything. I got so much stuff interconnected with blah, blah, blah. Imagine you're a teacher in Kentucky, and you go, oh.
That's an uphill battle.
But if you're like, or any state, any union that's got a pension fund or whatever, and you're flipping out because those pension funds are invested somewhere. There are banks holding that money, and, it's pretty wild. I'm sure they have Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul to thank for that there in the state of Kentucky.
Yeah, it's scary times.
It's wild.
Yeah,
I mean, nobody is. But
like all the different ways it will affect people is overwhelming.
Gas prices are the most marquee way that everyone will see. That's something that you can see actively happen. But also, people are like, oh, thanks a lot, Biden. It's like, dude, this country has been a net exporter of petroleum for a while. There are regions of the country that still import it. But gas prices aren't going up because we produce more petroleum than we need in this country. So we're a net exporter of it. But
what does that have to do with gas? Petroleum. That's jelly.
Bill, see me after the show. Petroleum jelly. Yeah.
It's one of those things where it weighs on you like, okay,
does it though?
Does it not?
It doesn't.
You don't think about stuff in a global aspect where...
He doesn't, because he just has himself. He doesn't have children. He doesn't have a dad who's around. He just has himself. And so if you
I have a family. I have a mother and a brother.
Then why are you so cavalier about it?
I'm not cavalier about it. It's just... This is on top
I'm not
of,
saying it's like debilitating, but it's definitely something that like I've been thinking about a lot this week, and
but I haven't,
and you can't get away from it either. Like places that I would normally go to find like funny memes are just all Ukraine stuff.
But I just add it to the list. This is no different than having a year full of mass shootings. It's been tragedy after tragedy after tragedy. This is no different. I'm not pressed about it because I hate to say that I'm desensitized. But I am. Bad stuff is going to happen. This is just another thing that has happened. So, no, I'm not pressed about it more than anything else.
But, I don't think it's likely to happen, but the mass shooters don't have access to nuclear?
Nuclear.
Yeah, nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
But
and an ego that would make him use it. And, the guy keeps making threats and keeps escalating situations.
Whatever's gonna happen.
Listen, I take Poundcake's point too.
I get that. I mean, yeah. I get it.
I mean, I think people who are pay a lot of attention to those things. Most people just aren't invested in any form of politics whatsoever, and you certainly can't blame them.
But this isn't even political. This is an ethical, humanitarian crisis. This isn't.
Well, but it is political too. He's trying.
It started because of politics, but
everything starts from politics. But I mean, he's trying to reconstitute the Soviet Union. He wants to live like it's the 1700s again. So Russia has a long tradition of kind of melding history with almost like religious divine intervention, and it's not an atheist country, so I don't know. There's a whole lot of things going on there that can be overwhelming to the point where you can't blame anybody for checking out. I'm being told that original story on that Kentucky Teachers Fund has been majorly corrected too, so that's good. Maybe that just represented a small portion of I don't know. But again, my point is that there are a lot of things interconnected that, are so behind the curtain that it would never present itself to you. Gas prices you can see go up, but other things you're not necessarily going to see. Does Dave iHeartMedia have any Russian investments that they'll feel compelled to divest themselves of? It's like when and a lot of this too is symbolism. The nightly news had bars pouring Russian vodka down the sink, and they had to tell these people, you guys know that Smirnoff and Stoli are made in the United States, right? And they're like, what? Those have not been made in Russia in a long, long, long time. If they ever were. Stoli and Smirnoff are made here. I'm going to break. I will have those